Good morning. Gonna give people just another minute to show up here. Looks like my sound is working okay. So this week we'll be doing streams every day at 10 o'clock. And this is in large part because we have been migrating many customers over to Dash. So there might be more people who want to go through this now. You should be seeing the Dash login page, which is just dash.virtualpbx.com. Now, if you ever need to get to this training, you can always go to YouTube and search for VirtualPBX. We also have a recorded training on our website. So if you go to www.virtualpbx.com, you just want to mouse over support and select Dash support and scroll down a little bit. You'll see the training videos there. And then below them, you'll see the specific feature guides with screenshots and written instructions. All right, so Dash login requires a username, which is an email address. Each user will have a unique email address to log in with. Password, which you hopefully got via email. If for some reason you did not, you can use forgot your info link to the bottom right. And then you have your account name, which is typically your company name. And so if you hit forgot your info, again, it's going to ask for the email, and then it needs either the account name or the phone number, right? One or the other. It doesn't need both. And then they'll send you an email. Now, when you click on that email, have a link. It'll take you to reset your password. Once you've changed your password, it's going to kick you out, put you back in the login screen, so that way you get used to your new password. For most people, I say just click on the Remember Me, and that way you don't have to worry about it in the future. Alrighty. So now this is a test account. It's been around for quite a while. But for new people, right, so you've just signed up or you were just migrated or it's your first time of logging in to Dash, what it actually does is it takes you to your account page here and has a little wizard pop open to tell you what certain things are. So here, for instance, you could change your time zone. You can also change your date format. As an admin, you also have access to the account level. So you can also change the account level time zone, which could be important. Now, on a live account, i.e. not this one, you'd have another section down here for billing related things. So like being able to change your credit card, seeing the invoice, seeing your service plan type, that sort of thing. Now, when you're done with all of this, you go ahead and click on close. And now we're here on our dashboard. So up the top, you can always click on your name to get back to that account information page. You got a little question mark icon here, and you've got some sub areas to choose from. First is chat with us. This will open up a chat window with our support team, so they can help you out as you're navigating through the system. Down here is a link that will open up a new tab, take you to the support pages, so then you can find a particular guide you want to follow. Next, we have the online store. So this goes to store.virtualpbx.com. This is where you would order a VoIP phone, for instance. You could order a headset or a router, that sort of thing. And then up here, I have the link here for the web phone. This will only show up once you have a web phone on your user. So it may not show up for you right away until an admin has added a web phone to your user. A web phone simply makes use of Chrome or Firefox and lets you make and receive phone calls right from your browser, so on your computer. All right, let us go over here. On the left, we've got our major navigation points within Dash. Oh, I forgot this, sorry. The three horizontal line or menu icon, these takes you to other features within Dash. users can't, may get to ACD queues if they're in queues, and then user portal is for everybody. The rest of these are all admin features, and then that's the logout icon. All right. And here we got total users. So these are all the people on your account who are making and receiving calls. Depending on your plan, adding users can increase your bill. So that's something to be aware of. If we go down just a little further, we got total devices and then the breakdown of those devices, right, in a little pie chart here as well as denoted here. So cell phones, pretty self-explanatory. The web phone, which I've already mentioned once. SIP or soft phone, right? So that's software application on a computer, tablet, smartphone. The web phone is technically a type of soft phone, right? Because a browser is software. And then you've got the SIP phone. That's a type of VoIP phone. It's a physical device, right? So typically it'll be a phone sitting on your desk, or it could be a little box that connects to handsets, so you have cordless handsets around, that sort of thing. And then landline, which is pretty self-explanatory. All right, unregistered devices, looks like I've got 21 of them listed here. That's basically saying the system says there's probably these 21 most likely VoIP devices aren't connected, meaning we can't send a call to them, nor can we get a call from them. All right, total phone numbers. These are all the phone numbers on the account. I have 45. Your plan will include anywhere from 1 to 15 numbers as part of your monthly plan price. If you go over that allotment, the list price, I believe, is $4.99 per month per phone number. And we have a little breakdown here. I have, looks like all of my phone numbers are currently assigned. That means they're all in use, right? They ring to something or someone, right? Whether that's a main number or a number that goes directly to a user or to a ring group or a queue, it could be my conference numbers, etc. You could also have a list here for spare numbers. Spare number means it's a number on your account, so if you're over your allotment, you would still be charged for it. But you're not currently using it, right? It's for a future advertising campaign, for example, or you had a block of numbers in sequence, right? You just haven't gotten to the numbers that end in 7, 8, 9 yet. But you're going to eventually, so you just want to hold on to those numbers. Right. Now, then we got the breakdown: USDID, US toll-free, right? Toll-free, easy. That's the 800 numbers: 888-877, all the way down to 833 currently. Local numbers, or USDID, right, is local numbers. So that's, like a number in Rochester, New York versus, say, Chicago, Illinois, and all across the country. Now, you can also have international numbers. If you're interested in international numbers, you're going to want to email our porting team, so porting, P-O-R-T-I-N-G, at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in, and they will then let you know if there are further requirements or if that's not available or if it is, etc. Some countries, like Germany, for instance, requires proof of presence within that city, like a utility bill is typically enough. Some countries don't care. Others are even more restrictive than saying they want proof of presence. All right, conference bridges. I've got 6 of them here. All this means is I have enabled conferencing on 6 of my users. Now, I can't do that until I have a main conference number. Over here on the right here, we got, these are my main numbers, right? So these are, I don't know, I just clicked on it, didn't I? Right. So main numbers, these numbers all behave the same way. They're all going to have the same initial routing. They're all going to have, like, for example, the same main greeting. All right, next up, we got the conference number. So that goes right into our conference bridge. And again, I have 6 staff members who can then host a conference. Basically, when you call the conference number, it asks you for the conference room number you're going to join, and then the PIN number for that conference. You can have multiple conference numbers, right? I only have the one here, but you could have 15 if you wanted. Next up, we've got the fax box number. You can have one fax box number. This actually activates faxing on the system. The fax box number is where you receive your faxes from. It also, by enabling it on the account, that means your users can then send a fax out via email, right? So they create a new email, they put, and actually, well, I'll get into it right now. Basically, in the to field of that email, it puts a plus sign, right? The number 1, an area code and phone number where you're faxing to, little @ symbol, and then your account realm, which is just a few spots down. And then you simply attach a PDF or TIFF file and send it off. Now, in that email, you can only include the one attachment. That's the only thing that will get faxed, right? So nothing that you type in the body of the email gets sent out, just the attachment. If you have multiple attachments in an email, one of them will get faxed out, assuming it's a PDF or TIFF file. I haven't been able to figure out if there's a pattern to which one it decides to fax out. So one attachment, PDF or TIFF. All right. Next up, we got the company directory. It's a download link. It basically just downloads a text file which has all your users and their extension numbers, right? So you can hand that out if people want a physical piece of paper with everyone's extension number on it. Down below that, we have something new. This is the soft phone directory. This is also a downloaded file. This works with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. You would then upload the file that you download to the desktop soft phone. You would then see everyone who has the VirtualPBX soft phone app on your account. You can see their status, right? You can see if they're on a call or if they're not, right? You can actually then click on them and call them directly. So kind of easy way to see presence, assuming everyone's on the desktop soft phone. All right, store discount code. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our web store. So again, if you need to buy a VoIP phone, you want to buy the desktop soft phone license, that sort of thing, you would get a discount. And then we got the account realm, which I just mentioned. The other thing it's used for beyond faxing is to program a third-party application or device. So you want to, there's a soft phone application you like, the one you've been using. You would use this piece of information among a couple others to then set up that application to work with us. All right, up here at the top, we got caller ID. So this is your main company caller ID. Now, unfortunately, my streaming software doesn't always work on the pull downs, but you can select any of your main phone numbers. And then you've got this here, the company caller ID name. This you can enter in up to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. Once you click on the Save Changes, this information would get transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME, and they'll update their servers. Now, that process takes up to 3 business days. Usually it's a little less than that, but it has taken up to 3 before. And then when you make an outbound call from your VoIP phones, the CNAME information would get transmitted along with your phone number. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. The CNAME information is not supported by every caller that your call could route through. Right? They're just usually they're like small regional carriers. But if your call happens to route through them, your CNAME information will not end up getting to the person you're calling. Nothing we can do to fix that. Right? We can't make other companies do things. Even for the carriers who do support CNAME, it's a low priority, right? Their first priority, connect the call, right? And then the caller ID. And way back in third is the CNAME information. So if any carrier is having heavier than expected call volume, that's likely the first thing they're going to drop because, again, they want to connect the call. And obviously, if there's some sort of outage or major maintenance issue, probably also going to get dropped. All right, down below, we've got your emergency address or E911 information. Again, this is the address associated with that phone number, right? So your company headquarters address, for example. And any changes, you click on Save Changes. Next up, we've got hold music. So on Dash, hold music is defined as once a call has come in and gotten to a user. Sorry about that. And then the user puts a hold on their VoIP phone, and that's when the hold music would play. Now, Dash, you can upload your own files. It will support .wave, .wav, or .mp3 files. I recommend that you make sure those are recorded in mono, not in stereo, and partially because the file size is restricted to 1 megabyte currently. Right? So if you have it in mono, that gives you some more space for a longer file. A 1 megabyte MP3, for example, is about 5 minutes. And then this would be the default hold music for all of your users. Now, hours actually takes you to main number, or a subsection of main numbers, so I'm just going to go to main numbers in general. All right, so main company numbers, if you click on here, you see I can unassign any of these numbers. That means I don't want to use it as a main number any longer. So for instance, this 775, I can just unassign it. Now, I still own that number, right? It just got moved to a spare number status. So I can move it to one of my salespeople, for example. Or if I wanted to get rid of it, I will need to delete it later. And I need to double check on something because pardon me, I'm just verifying. All right. Now, if I wanted to add a new number as a main number, I can either add from my spare numbers, right? So that number I just removed, I could put back. Or I can also buy a number, right? So I got local or toll-free. If I select toll-free, I select the toll-free prefix. I tell the system to search. It'll show me what's available. I can click add. So now it's added in my cart. Tells me the number there. I can also remove it. And I can add multiple. I could add like 20 numbers right now if I wanted to. Okay. I can click on buy numbers. It's verifying that the number was actually available, and then activating it and moving it to my account. And now it's here as a main number. So any place you can add a number in Dash to a user, to a room group, etc., you can do directly from that spot, and it will go the spot where you want it to. Versus you can always add numbers in the spare numbers section when we get to it, but then you have to assign it to where you want it to go. So you can potentially save yourself steps. All right. Now, comes up more often than local. So if you do, every now and then you'll get this, right? So 310 is in Los Angeles. It's actually one of the original 47 area codes in North America. And it is likely exhausted, which is basically what this is telling me. It's saying, hey, there's none available. Now, that doesn't mean there's no phone numbers in Los Angeles available. It just means that specific area code. So then you would want to do a search again for what's called an overlay. Now, it is possible that every overlay for an area could be exhausted. Doesn't happen very often, but it does happen occasionally. Usually that means there's another overlay about to become active, or it just, for whatever, and the local Public Utilities Commission just hasn't made them widely available yet. In this kind of instance, you can email porting to double check to see if there is numbers available, because it could be a problem with the database not transmitting the information. They'll double check and see if there is one available or not. We can do what's called a back order. However, if there are none available. Like we double check, there's nothing available in 310. We could try to place what's called a back order for the phone number. However, we don't get a guarantee we're going to get one, or even when we're going to get one, because we're basically relying on someone who already has a 310 phone number giving that up, right? To say, oh, we're closing this business, or I'm moving out of area, I don't want this phone number anymore because I don't want my exes calling me, that sort of thing. Then it would become available. All right. Oh, sorry, I lost my place here. Okay, if you click on the little gear icon here for each number, you can also set up caller ID information, right? So you can set up the CNAM, as well as turning on inbound caller ID, right? You can set up the E911 for each of the phone numbers. Prepend, this is a VoIP feature. You can add additional caller or text in front of the caller ID information. It will show up on your VoIP phone's displays. So, like if you have multiple businesses, for example, or you've got a special promotion. So I set up a number because I have a Thanksgiving promotion or a Black Friday promotion coming up. I just want my staff to know, oh, it's about this, right? So they know what to promote or how to greet the inbound caller. Messaging is actually for text messaging that is available on select plans. On the main number, I believe you need to make use of APIs to properly make use of it. Whereas if a number is directly on a user, you can actually do some texting, and I'll get into that a little bit later. All right, so office hours strategy. For a new sign up, you start off on 24-hour open office. Most people decide to choose the custom office hours. So for each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark in front of that day, and then you set your office hours in these boxes to the right based on 24-hour or military time, and select the time that's appropriate. So in this case, I'm open from 9 to 5. Down here at the very bottom, you can put a check mark saying, hey, I'm closed for lunch. And then you put in your lunch hours. That way, every time you come up to your lunchtime, the system automatically goes into lunch mode. Right. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, you put a check mark. And then you go over here to the right, add holiday, and you've got your choice of single day, date range, advanced. Right? So single day, it's like this one here I have for President's Day. I put in the month and the date. I click on Save Changes. So when that day comes around, the system puts me in holiday mode. Right? Date range would be like this one here for Christmas or for Thanksgiving coming up in the United States. Again, I set the month, start date, and then end date. Right. And then retreat, that's this one here. That's the advanced option. I'm saying, hey, the first Friday in July, we're on holiday, right? So our annual company picnic or barbecue. One caveat to keep in mind, and one thing you may have noticed, is there's no year indicator on the holidays. So you want to avoid a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Right? You just want to do a single day for those, or have a date range end on December 31st and then a new date range start on January 1st would be the other way to get around that. All right, now we get to the big one here, incoming call handling. Now, we're under main number. So for all my main numbers, now I'm on my open hours. How do I want the system to handle calls, right? Likewise, I've got it here for after hours and holidays. Now this is, again, all specifically for the main numbers. Now these options are all basically the same. So call comes in and it goes to the virtual receptionist or auto attendant for those of you who have been in the PBX or phone system business for a while. On your left, you've got your main menu, right? So this is what people press on their phone to navigate through your phone system. And then on the right, we've got your main greeting options. Your main menu is basically 0 through 9, plus you get a default route as an option. If I click Add Route, yeah, the pull down doesn't work, but I can choose any of the options there, and then I can choose where the call goes. So up here, because the pull down works up here for some reason, I have a huge list, but basically you got the Smart Directory. You can send it to a specific user. I can send it to a call queue, right? So like my support queue or my sales queue. I can send it to a specific device. So I want, Bob's phone at his desk to ring. I can do that if I want. You can also select a media file, meaning a greeting plays. Now, downside of that is once the media file ends, the call ends. I know we've had one customer ask for advanced configuration to allow the caller to go back, so that is an option. You would need to send that request over to our support team and be specific. Basically, hey, I want menu option 3 to play a particular greeting, and then when that greeting ends, then I want the caller to come back to the main. Let's see what else we got. You can go to calls, can go to ring groups, and then you can send it to advanced call flows. Advanced call flows can be a couple different things. In this case, these are additional auto attendants. So I could send it to, basically this allows you to do sub-menuing, right? So press 3, then I can have a new greeting play and a whole new set of menu options come up. And I can even have one of those menu options go to another auto attendant, have a third greeting play and a third set of menu options. And I can loop it back up to the first one if I wanted to. And then you've got voicemail boxes. I think that's the last step. So you can do that for all of your menu options here. Greetings, text-to-speech. You type it up, you click Update, click Save, and then Save Changes. It's a robotic and computerized voice. If you're new to PBX systems or phone systems in general, right, or you're a brand new startup, you're not sure exactly how you want things to go, I say start with text-to-speech, put in a file, call in from your cell phone to test it out to see how it sounds, to see, how the calls route and flow, because you can keep changing it and it's not a big deal. Versus one of the other options, the professional greetings, right, that costs you money. So you want to make sure you know for sure how you want the greeting to be in like your call flows before you go spend money on a professional greeting. Upload your own file, again, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono on just under 1 megabyte. And you can upload it here. If you already have media files, you can check from this pull down and choose one and select it here. You can record it over the phone. So by default, the system wants us to be with a VoIP phone on your account. And it has a PIN number, right down here. And that's specific to this time of day, right? So I'm in the open hours. So this PIN number only works during my open hours, right? So so during that time, I can change that greeting. Right? So I can call in, I hear the greeting play, for example, I can enter in the PIN number. The system will then walk me through recording a new greeting, right? If I've just started up, for instance, and you call in, you can enter in this PIN number, and again, it'll walk you through it. Now, if you already have a file in place, right? So I have greeting A is my main greeting that plays when I call in right now. And then I enter in this PIN number because I want to record a Thanksgiving greeting. Right? I record it, boom, it's the file saved. Greeting A, the file name, it stays the same. The content just got overwritten with what I just recorded. So that's something to keep in mind. And then you got the professional recording services. When you click on order, this will take you to a new website with our partners, Snap Recordings. They have about 80 to 100 voice actors to choose from, both men and women. You've got various versions of English. They have various versions of Spanish and French. So you can do a multilingual greeting. They have what they refer to as hold treatment, which is music file plays, and then the script is read, and then music file plays, etc. They handle their own pricing, and they do their own billing. They typically deliver via email, as far as I know. They have express options, so they can get it to you quicker. But then once you get filed, you just simply go to the upload. All right, so then we got these settings down here. Number of retries on misdial, basically how many times can someone press an invalid option, right? And basically it would say, so like, I believe I don't have 7 set up here. Yeah, so someone kept pressing 7 for whatever reasons, right? After that second time they pressed 7, the system would either tell them goodbye, or if I have a default route, which I currently do, would send the caller to the default route. Likewise, if they don't press anything after a given amount of time, would also go to that default route or end the call. Speaking of dialing timeout, this is how much time the system waits after it hears a button press before it assumes that you're done. This should actually be a full integer, so like 1 versus 0.01. I don't know why it's set there, or 2 or 3, etc. All right, and then this last one here, allow outside recording. So again, greetings by default, the system wants you to record from a VoIP phone on the account. You may realize, hey, you don't have your VoIP phones yet, or you're not sure which VoIP phone you're gonna get, or maybe you don't even sure if you want to make use of VoIP right away. If you turn this on, what this is saying is, hey, you can call into the system from your cell phone, enter in that PIN number, and record. The reason you don't want to keep that on is someone could decide to call in and try to see if there's a PIN number to change your greeting on you. Right? They say, hey, let's see if I can do this, because people are weird. And they like messing with other people. Now, the default route, again, it will come into play if no one presses an option. Like if I had no other routes and just had a default route, I can set it up so like a greeting plays, and then I can send them to voicemail, or I can send them to a ring group or whatever, right? Just less decision making for the inbound caller. The downside of having a default route, however, is robodialers, right? Robodialers can call into your main number, they'll hear your greeting play a couple of times, and then they'll get to your default route, like say to a voicemail box. And that's all using up time on your account. Whether they're calling in on a toll-free number, using up toll-free minutes, or if you're on a per-minute plan, that can be an issue. So that's usually why I don't recommend having a default route. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Any changes you make here, you want to click Save on this box, and then you want to click Save Changes here on the incoming call routing. That way you know everything went through. Now, second option, call comes in, I'm sending it to Bob. If Bob doesn't answer, then it goes to the virtual receptionist, right? Now, we're still under open hours. If I click on this, again, it's the same virtual receptionist that we were just on, right? Now, again, I can send, this is a pull down here, right? So I can send it to a different user. I can send it to a specific device. I can have a media file play, so I could have 2 greetings play if I wanted before callers get to the virtual receptionist. I can send it to a ring group. I can send it to a queue. The main idea behind this is that you're giving a staff member or multiple staff members, in the case of groups or queues, a chance to answer the call first. And if they're not able to answer it, then the caller gets to the virtual receptionist where they can enter in a menu option or an extension. Just so you know, when it offers calls to a user or a group, it's offering it for 20 seconds. That's hard-coded into the system. All right, third option here. call comes in, I'm offering it to, again, a user, a group, a device, a media file, etc. If they don't pick up, then I'm sending it to a voicemail box. This also has, in that first pull down, an option to say skip the voicemail, right? So you don't even have to have a greeting play or even offer it to anybody to say, hey, boom, go to the voicemail box. The voicemail box greeting would play, and then the inbound caller can leave a voicemail. So, for instance, you would do this during holidays, right? It's like, hey, no one's going to be answering calls. We're just going to send everyone to voicemail. Don't even try to enter a menu option. Just, hey, go here. This last one is the advanced call flows. So I can send it to one of the other attendants I created, which we'll get to shortly. Usually not the main option. Now, your after hours and your holidays, right? You have these same options. These virtual receptionists can all be different, right? I have less menu options here. I would probably have a different greeting since this is after hours. But this gives you the flexibility of saying, okay, in my after hours, I don't want to have it go to my, daytime group of people. I want calls to go to my after hours groups of people, whether that's because I'm just sending them to different voicemail boxes, or I'm actually sending it to different staff members or to an automated answering service, etc. Same would apply for your holidays or lunch hours, for that matter. All right. Main conference number. And you can buy numbers or add from spare. You have a custom greeting here, meaning it's a text-to-speech greeting. You can, you can enable it, and then you can enter in a greeting. Versus if you don't have one enabled, the system just says, please enter your conference room PIN number. It will still say that after your main greeting, though. So once you do have a main conference number assigned, then you can enable conferencing on your users. And then we got the main fax box number. So again, assigning, you can have one fax box number, This will enable conferencing. Now, on this account, if I edit the fax box link there to the bottom left, I get an error message because this account is a test account. On your account, when you would click on the little edit fax box right here, you actually get a window popping up that has two fields. The first field is so you can enter in an email address to basically for the inbound faxes to go to, right? So I can put Bob Smith at VirtualPBX in this first field. Any fax that comes in, Bob would get an email, and it'll have a PDF that he can click on, see what the fax is. Now, just to something to be aware of, someone can dial your fax number by accident, right? They'll hear that fax tone, they'll hang up. You would still get an email letting you know, hey, there was a failed incoming fax attempt. So if it's like a number you don't recognize or that never faxes to you, that's probably an instance where someone called the wrong number, heard the fax tone, and hung up. Just something to be aware of. Now, the second box that opens, or second field in that box that opens up, this allows you to determine who can send faxes out, right? So you can put an email address in, for example, or if you own your own company domain, right, at abccleaners.com, and everyone has an email address that ends that way, right? So bob at abccleaners.com. You can just simply put the domain. That means every one of your employees that has an email address, they can fax out without being a user on Dash, right? They just have to have the format, which is that +1 area code and phone number, @ your account realm, attach a PDF or TIFF. So, you can have your holiday intern Susie can fax out, but you don't have to have her be a user. All right, so I mentioned this a couple times already, so let's go to auto attendance. So auto attendance, basically this is saying, hey, you can have multiple auto attendants. This could be because you have multiple businesses on the same account, and you want the individual phone numbers for those businesses to have their own main greetings, right, and their own virtual receptionist, so they can go to their own routing. You would also use this to create your submenus, right? Like I want when people call in, they have an option of one or two, right? English or Spanish. And then they click on one for English. Okay, that's another auto attendant. Then I can create the menu option for that. And then two, that's my Spanish menu option, right? So then that would be a second. So you have potentially three attendants at that point, right? The main one, and then the two sub menus. All right, so creating attendant, you give it a name, and then you give it an extension. The extension, you can technically, your staff members could then transfer calls to these other attendants directly, right? So got to your cleaning business, and they're like, they start talking, and they're like, aren't you guys related to this other company? Because for dog walking, I need to talk to them too. Oh yeah, let me transfer you over to them. Send it to the attendant's extension number, and then they can get the menu option. Right, and then you click create attendant. Now, if you click on a name, should eventually load. I'm guessing my computer's having a day. All right, so one, you can always change the name. Now here, this is a toggle, right? So unavailable in main attendant means it's not a submenu, right? It's its own standalone. If I click on this back, now this is available in main menu. So this now makes it available as a potential submenu. And it would show up on any of your attendants as a potential option. Now up to you to actually determine if it is an option, right? It's not automatically an option. Right? Make any changes, click on Save Changes. You also have the option to delete. Phone numbers. This is where you would assign phone numbers. Right? You can either add from spare, or you can buy a local or toll-free number. Right? You can change the extension number, or you can even add multiple extensions if you wanted to. Then you got the little wrench icon. If you click on that, I feel like my computer's being slow today, so I apologize. Either that or I'm being impatient. All right, so now you see here, I've got my open hours, virtual receptionist. I click on that. Again, menu options on the left, greeting options on the right. Same settings that we saw earlier. And then you would click on Save and Save Changes. Notice you also have your after hours and holidays, right? Now, these hours will match the settings that we did set up under the main number. Currently, there's no way around that. All right. Devices. Shows all the devices on the account. Green means it's connected. Red means it's not, right? Unregistered. And then this black one here means, hey, you turned it off. You disabled it. Now, you can add devices here. First one here is SIP phone, right? That's that physical weight phone that sits on your desk. You choose a manufacturer. If your manufacturer is not here, you would then need to choose a soft phone to add and use the soft phone to program that device. But if your manufacturer is here, like Cisco, for example, you can click on, hopefully you can find your model. You give a device name, right? So Bob's phone, for example. And then you enter in the MAC address. The MAC address, each phone has its own unique MAC address. Often a sticker on the back of the phone, could be on the box, it could be on the phone's manual. It can also be if you plug in the phone, if you click on under status typically, and settings, it normally can give you the MAC address that way. So then you would click on create device, and then usually there's an option for save changes. Now, in terms of Dash, you're done. In terms of the phone, you're not. Right? You would need to log into the phone's web UI, get to the auto provisioning section, and enter in a URL. Basically, you tell the phone, get on the internet, go here. Right? The phone does that. The server says, who are you? Phone transmits MAC address. Server goes, oh, I know what you are, and I know what account you're on. Here's your configuration information. Your phone should then reboot a couple times, and then once it's done rebooting, it should show up as a green device on your system here. Now, that specific information, right, the URL, etc., that's on our support pages, right? So virtualpbx.com, also for support, go to dash support, and you want to look under auto provisioning phones. That file will have screenshots for, I believe, all the manufacturers or most of them, and the actual specific URL that you need to input. Now, once you add a device on here, it shows it, right? It would have its icon. It's going to have a name. It's not going to have a user unless you chose to assign it to someone. So that's something to keep in mind. Cell phone and landline are the same, right? So you give it a name. You put the plus sign, the number 1, and then the area code and phone number. And then you can select an owner to assign it to. Then you click on Create Device. Now, we'll click on this one here. We'll click on Advanced to get the options. Okay, this is the default settings for a cell phone or a landline, how it shows up. Now, when Dash sends a call to a cell phone or landline, that phone will ring, you pick up. And by default, you're going to hear a message, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. You press 1. So when you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. Right? It hears the one tone and then connects the inbound caller to you. And you start talking. Now, sometimes that's not what you want, right? Sometimes you're actually sending calls to an automated answering service, or maybe even to another PBX phone system altogether. In that case, right, that automated answering service or PBX system, it can't press 1 to accept the call, right? It's essentially a robot. It doesn't know what to do at that point. So what you would want to do is here under Advanced, click on the box here for Allow Use of Cell Phone's Voicemail, and then click on Save Changes. So what that does is you no longer have to press 1 to accept the call, right? We hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. So your automated answering service can then handle the call and route the calls as it needs to. Now, if this is your actual cell phone and you have the check mark, what happens is, right, if you don't answer that call, right, but your cell phone voicemail picks up, that inbound caller ends up on your personal cell phone's voicemail box. Some people want that. Some people will absolutely do not. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the other thing is this one here, keep original caller ID. So when that is checked, which is the default, let's say customer Mary is calling into the system, rings on my phone, I look at my cell phone, and I don't recognize that phone number. And I don't answer it because, well, there's all sorts of weird phone calls people get these days. So it goes to the system voicemail, then I check it later and have to call Mary back. If I uncheck this, what happens then is when Mary calls, what shows up on my phone is one of my account phone numbers, right? My main numbers, for example, or the number on my user. That's what shows up on my cell phone. So I'm like, oh, that's a work call. Let me take that. So basically an easy way to let you know, oh, you're getting a work call versus a personal call. All right, next up we got soft phone. Little warning message here saying, hey, because you could be on a mobile device, your E911 information may not be accurate, so please be careful. Now, by default, we're on a third-party application, right? So you would give it a name, and then you could use you would use the SIP username, and if you click on the box for SIP password, you would use this information along with your realm to program that third-party device, whether that's another soft phone application from another company or your physical VoIP phone that didn't show up on the list under SIP phone. Then you would click on Create Device, and you would sign it to someone and click on Create Device. Now, if you want to make use of the VirtualPBX soft phone app, then what you want to do is where it says Use Third-Party Application, you click on that. See, it flips it, says Use VirtualPBX Application. You still give it a device name. You probably still want to assign it, and you do want to assign it to a user. You will click on Create Device, and then Save Changes. As long as a VirtualPBX soft phone is assigned to a user, that user will get an email letting them know, hey, your cell phone is ready. You just need to download it, and here's your login information. Now, if you want to use the desktop version of the app, you do need to order it through the store because that does require a license fee. But then you also can use the soft phone directory that showed on the dashboard. Landline, again, same as cell phone. Web phone, again, you get that same warning message because it is a kind of soft phone. You give it a name and you want to assign it to a user. You would then click on create device and then save changes. The web phone, you would go to webphone.virtualpbx.net. That's for login information. That login information is the same information as your Dash login, right? So same email address, same password, same account name. And then you use Chrome or Firefox. You can then make and receive calls. Now, again, you want to use this on a computer, right? So desktop or a laptop. I have been able to get the web phone to work on my Android phone using Chrome, but I know we've had customers have problems trying to do the same on an iPhone with either Chrome or Firefox. So recommended, use it on a computer. It's easier. Greetings. This is your greetings manager. So you can see any of your uploaded greetings. They have the name, the source, TTS, right, text to speech, uploaded and then recorded over the phone. You can download them so you can listen to them to see if they're still relevant. If you click on the little wrench icon here, you can change the name or delete it because it's no longer relevant to you, what you want it to do. You can also add greetings here, right? So you can give it a name, find the file, and then upload it. Again, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Groups, shorthand for ring groups. So these are for like departments, etc. You can add a group. You give it a name, give it an extension, and then you click and drag the people you want to be in the group. And then you click on Create Group. So you click on the name of a group, right? You can change the name. You've got dialing repeats, and there's these little arrows here to the far right, which you probably can't see on YouTube. But this allows you to increase the dialing ring-throughs, or dialing repeats, excuse me. What that means is how many times can the inbound caller go through the group, right? So in this case, once, that means I can ring through to everybody once, right? If I clicked it up again and say got it to 3, that means I can ring through to every one of my staff members 3 times. And then you can obviously delete the group. If you click on the little members box, you can see all the staff members in the group. I can assign other people. I can remove particular people. Up here, this is the total ring time in the group, 120 seconds. I can change that. I can change it down to 60. I can change it to 600 if I want. And then in terms of your routing options, let's say I'm like, oh, okay, Bob, you're my ace. I want you to get calls. And then Gene, let's move you down here. But like, oh, it's still not the right ring order, right? Because it's still starting with Denard there. I can click on distribute, and now Bob's first. Likewise, these are sliders, right? So I can do things like this. So that way I can have everyone ring the whole time, right? So this is referred to as blast ringing. Basically, everyone's phone rings until someone picks it up. Now, just so you know, ring groups are free, whereas I mentioned queues, right? ACD queues. Standard queues, I believe, are $15 to $30 depending on the plan. There's also pro queues, which I believe start at $99. Again, depends on your plan. Queues have different routing options, right? They can do ring all, and they can, you can't do it in a specific sequence yet, but they have other routing options and usually some different kind of hold options. Groups, extensions, you can add multiple extensions. You can also have a phone number go directly into a group. Queues, by the way, they can only have one or the other, right? So either an extension number or a phone number. And both queues and groups can be menu options, right? I mentioned them both. Another advantage groups have, by the way, is that the users can take calls from their cell phones or landlines while they're in a group. However, queues, both the standard and the pro, you do have your staff members need to be using VoIP phones to get calls. Group features. Bring back. This is a musical file, .wave.mp3. You can upload your own. Right, find the file, click on upload. This basically will play while your caller is waiting for one of your staff members to pick up. You want to make sure that this file, the duration, will match what you have for your ring duration here, right? So I have 120 seconds. I need to make sure that ringback file plays for 120 seconds because the system will not loop it for me. All right, next action. If I enable this, what do I want to do if no one picks up? Right, so like all my staff members, for whatever reason, couldn't pick up the call, even though I had 3 dialing repeats, right? So the caller went through 3 times. They weren't able to get to anyone, and I can send it basically anywhere, right? I can send it back to my main menu. I can send it to a specific device. I can send it to a user. I can send it to another group. I can actually even send it to a queue, or I can send it to a voicemail box. And then you click on Save Changes. Oops. Allow call forward. Basically, if I enable this, I can then my users who are in it can make use of call forwarding, i.e. they're not going to be at their normal phone for the day, so they can send it to their cell phone, for example. And then lastly, we have caller ID prepend. Again, this is for your VoIP phone users. You can put additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID to give them a heads up about what the call is about. Right? So good for people who are in multiple groups or queues. All right, numbers. So the numbers in use shows where your numbers are going. Spare numbers. It shows, hey, I got an extra number here. So if I don't want this number at all and I want to save a little money on my bill, if I click on the little box here, right, I got the option here to delete. So are you sure? Delete the number. It says, yes, you've successfully deleted it, and now it's gone. Now I can buy numbers here, right, local or toll free, just like I can anywhere else. The difference is that here it just puts me right in the spare numbers. They're not automatically assigned anything. Port a number. That means you're moving it from another carrier to VirtualPBX. So like say from T-Mobile to VirtualPBX, you would follow these on-screen instructions. The main things that we would need here is we need a completed and signed LOA, or letter of agency. That's a file you can actually download from this process here. It's also on our website under the support pages. Now the LOA asks for like your company information, right? Company name and address. That information should match what the current carrier, so in this case T-Mobile, has on file for that phone number, right? So if you're XYZ cleaners with T-Mobile, but with us you're ABC cleaners, you need to make sure that the company name is XYZ cleaners on the LOA. And it does need to be signed. It can be a digital signature, or you print it out and hand sign it. Either way, it just can't be typed in that signature field. That gets rejected every time. So when you go through this process, it will also ask you for a copy of your bill for a local number. Actually, I think it asks for both, but you only need it for the local number. As you go through the process, it gives you a couple, warnings about how the porting process works, and what you understand some things, and then you submit it, and it should get to our porting team, who will then process the port request. Once you submit it, you will get an automated email saying, hey, you've submitted it. On the next business day, maybe even the same business day, depending on when you submit it, you should get another email from our porting team saying, hey, we did get your documents. Here's what to expect in the porting process, right? So you should get 2 emails relatively quickly after submitting a port request. Some things to keep in mind about porting. Toll-free numbers usually take between 3 to 5 business days, assuming everything is correct. Local phone numbers, I've seen them take as short as 1 day, which is very rare, and as long as 6 weeks, which is also pretty rare. Usually it's in the area of about a week to 2 weeks, give or take. Now, if there's any problem with the information that you submitted, the losing carrier will tell us, hey, you got an address mismatch or bad authorization name. We then let you know, right? We send you an email saying, hey, the port for this number got rejected for this reason. We don't get the specifics of what was wrong, right? So they won't tell us, oh, the address was 1 digit too long, or the zip code was 1 digit off, right? They won't tell us that. They just say, hey, this information was wrong. And in that instance, you would want to contact your current carrier to find out what they have on file for you. You can get what's called a customer service record, or CSR, and then get that information to us. We can update the port request and resubmit. The other thing to keep in mind when you're porting a number is you need basically you need 2 accounts, right? The account where you're porting to and the account where you're porting from, and they both have to be active for the port to complete. Now, once, right, from us, when a port completes, you get an email saying, hey, your port's completed. That means we've already tested the number. We know what calls into our system. We do recommend that you call it yourself to make sure it's getting in the right spot. Once you've done that, though, then you can go back to your other carrier saying, as long as you don't have any numbers with them anymore, you can say, hey, you can then cancel the account with them. All right, let's go to users. All right, adding a user, click here at the top, you enter their name. Each email address has to be unique for the login. You create a password for them, and then you give them an extension number. Now, I started this account with extension 1000, so it's telling me that the next available one in that series is 1029. I can put in any extension number I want, right? So I can make this 5210 because this is for my 5th auto attendant, and I want them to have, start with, in the 5000 series. That sort of logic. All right. By default, for any new user, the system, you have a check mark here to create a voicemail box, right? That's directly tied to that user. This checkbox here, do you want to include them in the company directory or not? Send to alternate address. So by default, the system will send like voicemails, the passwords, etc., to this email address you use for login. If you click send to an alternate address, this will supersede that, right? So you can send it to like Bob's personal email address because he's not going to be logging into the work email address for a while. And then the most important one, in my opinion, is this one here, send credentials to the user, right? So basically, when I click on create user here, it'll send an email either to the email used for login or the alternate, and it'll have the username and password to log in to Dash. And if you need to add multiple people, create user and add another. All right, on a user, you can click on their name, and you notice Bob here has got the little gray person icon. And if I close this back up, you got these other people with the little blue suit icon. The blue suit means they're an admin, right? The gray person means they're just a standard user. I can change his name. If I click change credentials, I can change his email address or his password. I also have the option right here to send the password reset email to him. So like if Bob keeps complaining that he can't log in, or like the passwords I create for him are too hard, I can say here, click this and reset your passwords, make it something you can remember. All right, change PIN. This is the voicemail box PIN. If your staff members are using VoIP phone, you don't have to set PIN numbers for the voicemail boxes because like when you clicked on create user, right, you had the little check mark for create voicemail box for that user. And then you add a VoIP phone to it. They can pick up their VoIP phone, hit *98 from their VoIP phone, whether that's a soft phone, web phone, or a physical device. That logs them into that created voicemail box. And the first time they do it, it will prompt them to enter in a PIN number and confirm it, as well as then prompt them to record their voicemail greeting. So it just saves you a little time. Now, if your staff members are going to be using cell phones or landlines, you do need to create a PIN number for them before they can log into the voicemail box. Alternate address, again, I can choose to do the alternate address, and this is where you have the company directory, and again, I can remove him if I want to. This is a pull down where you can change a user to an admin or make an admin back into a user. This is the time zone for the user. The language, basically with the language display in the dashboard, English, French, German, and Russian are the current options. The ringing timeout for a new user, that starts off at 20 seconds. This is how much time by default we are sending, the system will try to ring the devices on the user, right? So 20 seconds by default, in this case 45. 20 seconds is usually plenty of time for a VoIP phone or a landline. However, if your user is using cell phones, 20 seconds may not be enough time, right? In terms of how calls go through a phone system, right? Call to a landline, that telecom company knows exactly where that phone is, so it can send a call to it directly. Like, boom, not a problem. Call to a cell phone, your cell phone provider has to find you each and every time, and that takes time in terms of how the phone system reacts. So, like if someone called, two different numbers, one cell phone, one landline, more often than not, that landline is going to be ringing probably a couple times before the cell phone starts ringing. Same would apply with a VoIP phone to a cell phone. So in the case of you have a user making use of cell phones, you would want to make sure the ring time is like 45 to 60 seconds. Now, there's a feature called Follow Me. So if a user using multiple devices, you can then customize it per device. All right. Extensions, you can add multiple extensions to a user. Phone numbers, again, you can have phone numbers set up for each user. You can buy numbers, so you can add local or toll-free numbers to a user. Devices, you can add devices directly to the user. So instead of that devices page, you can do it here, right? So new device, I have these same options. I also can add from my spare devices. So if I have devices that I'm not using, I can then assign it to Bob here. And then we got user features. So caller ID number, this only works if a user has their own phone number. You would turn this on, and then this is the outbound caller ID that will show up whenever they make a call from a VoIP phone. Here's the call forwarding feature. And again, you've got off, on, and failover mode. Failover mode for your VoIP phone users. If you turn it on, you're saying, hey, I'm not going to be at my normal phone. Send calls to this other device. And here's that phone number. Again, +1 area code number. Click on Save Changes. Call forwarding, your users can set up themselves. At the very least, they can set it up through the user portal. And your VoIP phone users can actually use a feature code to set up their call forwarding from the phone. And then failover mode basically means, hey, your VoIP phone dropped offline. Call happens to come into your user at that time. It'll automatically send callers to your device. Now, this forwarding device should not be a device on my user, right? It's something that I use as a backup. It's not day-to-day use. All right, hot desking. Again, this is a VoIP feature, but this is for in a situation where your staff member or staff members, they can change desk from day to day, right? So they're in like an office bullpen. Today I sit at desk number 7. At that VoIP phone, I pick it up and I hit *11. That turns on hot desking on that phone and then asks me for the hot desk ID and then the PIN number if applicable. Once I've done that, the system said calls will now be sent to this device. So now for the rest of that day, when callers are looking for my user, it will ring at that phone I'm sitting in. At the end of that day, I pick up the handset again, I hit *12 to turn off hot desking. right? Tomorrow I roll in, someone's already sitting at desk 7. I'm like, whatever. I still have my coffee, so I'm going to go over here to desk 54. I sit down and I do the same thing. Pick up the handset, hit *11, enter the hot desk ID. So now calls are coming to me at this desk I'm sitting at. Voicemail box, again, this is created at the user. Fax box, you can have users have their own fax box. You can select a phone number or an extension. I usually recommend making use of the phone number because when you have the extension, you're asking that inbound, the person who's faxing to you, right? They need to call your main number, hear the greeting, enter the extension number, and then hit start fax. For me personally, I haven't faxed in quite a long time from a fax machine, but from what I remember, I would just go to the fax machine, enter the fax machine, put the document in, hit send fax, and then go walk off, come back in 5-10 minutes or whatever, make sure the fax went through or not, and then go about my day. The idea of sitting there listening and then sending fax would have been foreign to me. Conference bridge, I've enabled conferencing on this user. Again, here's your conference number. It defaults your conference room to your extension number and then your personal PIN number. This information, the PIN number especially, the user can change on their own through the user portal. Follow me, this is when you have multiple devices. You choose which devices you want it to ring to. You can click distribute like you did under groups, right? So I'm ringing in this order. I've got a 120-second ring time. And again, I can click and drag the numbers around and change the order, and I can slide them as well. Music on hold. You can have users have their own hold music. Again, .wave, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. And then you click on the upload, and then click on save changes. Customize call recording. So okay, in this instance, I'm recording all calls that come in or out, go in or out for this user, right? Inbound internal means calls come in from my coworker, right? Inbound external means a customer called in. Whereas outbound internal, I'm calling a coworker. Outbound external means I'm calling someone outside of the system. Just so you know, when you first enable it, it starts off all the options like this, which doesn't actually record any calls. So keep that in mind. And do not disturb just sends callers to voicemail. Now, in an instance, when a user has their own phone number, right, you would click on the little gear icon here, and then you can have the messaging, which I already have enabled right here. So now I can get inbound texts to this phone number to my VirtualPBX soft phone as long as I don't have the follow me setting enabled. Right, so you have to have your own phone number, you have to have caller ID set up. Actually, right, so I actually want to set up the caller ID here for this as well. Make sure I have the VirtualPBX soft phone app, and then also make sure that follow me is disabled. And then I can send and receive faxes from my VirtualPBX soft phone. Right. Voicemail boxes. You can create your own voicemail box up here. Right, give it a name, voicemail box number, a PIN number, and then you would click on create voicemail box. After you've created a manual voicemail box, or actually even for any voicemail box, you can look at the greetings under advanced. So every voicemail box has two media types, right? So media, this is your standard or your default file. Upload, again, .wave, .mp3, recorded in mono. Right, temporary, this would be for your vacation voicemail greeting or holiday, like I'm going to be out of the office. And so if there's a temporary file selected, it supersedes the media file until you as an admin come in and put temporary back to none. Right, recipients. Now, any recipient you add here, right, gets a notification and basically an email saying, hey, you got a voicemail, here's the file. On a user's voicemail box, right, this would be in addition to that user's login email address, right? For any manually created voicemail box, you do want at least one email address here, so it doesn't, that way you know someone's monitoring that voicemail box. And then we got options. Now, once you've got a greeting file set up and you've got the recipients allocated, I would go ahead and make sure you click on already set up. Require PIN is just for logging in, etc. Now, by default, voicemail boxes have delete after notification checked. What this means is the system by default is going to send an email out with an attachment. That attachment is a .mp3 file, so you can listen to your voicemail right there and there. And then once it sends that email, it deletes the voicemail from the system. It does that because the voicemail boxes are limited to 100 messages. Now, if your staff prefers to call in and listen to the voicemail or go to the user portal, right, then you would want to uncheck that. Now, you can still, this next one here, right, attach message to email, right, you can still leave that checked, so that way they still get the email, so they still have, basically 2 places to check it, or 3, technically. Now, if you don't want your staff members to get the voicemails, right, you want to make them log in, then you would uncheck that. Excuse me. Advanced routing. A lot of this will come up for our migrated customers versus new signups. At least currently, these features will eventually be available to customers depending on the plan. Direct inward system access. If I enable this, what this does is I can edit. So this is a PIN number. Then I can add an extension. I can save changes. So now what happens is on any of my main numbers, that rings to the virtual receptionist, right? I can call in. I can enter in the extension number, 1029. Then I can enter in the PIN number. Now this is, keep in mind, I'm doing this probably from a cell phone or landline. After I enter in that PIN number, I hear dial tone again, and then I can make an outbound call, right? So from my cell phone, I can call in, enter in this information, I get dial tone, and then I can enter in another phone number to make an outbound call to, like, say, a customer. The caller ID that shows up is going to be under the whatever main number settings I have instead of my cell phone number. The other things that can show up here are auto route and select route. Auto route is basically creating a rule to have calls based on inbound caller ID route in a particular fashion. Meaning like, oh, this phone number is calling in, I'm sending it to Bob, or I'm sending them to a voicemail box, or I'm blocking that caller from connecting. Now the blocking, that's actually handled under blacklists now. Select route, normally what that is call comes in and they're prompted to enter in like a zip code. And then based on that zip code, the system routes the call to a particular extension or queue. These are carryovers from the vConsole system. Now, currently on Dash, you can't edit the the select route rules for sure, and then the auto route rules that are not blocked, or blocking numbers, those you have to send in a request to our support team. They have to handle it on the back end right now. That eventually will becoming a front-facing, customer-facing feature that they can edit themselves. Call logs. This shows the calls that come in and out of the system. Can change that to this month so we get a few more. All right, green arrow to the right means, hey, that's a call that came into the system. You can click on it to get a little bit more information. So if this call had actually gone to my users, I would actually see which users or which devices the callers went to. These are all fairly short, so I'm not expecting a lot. All right, and then we've got some outbound calls. Oh, here's one that went long. Oh, not long enough, I guess. The little fire hydrant here allows you to report a call, right? If you create an email, it's going to have the technical details. In that body of the email, you are going to want to type in what you experienced, right? So like, I'm going to report this call. I want to say, well, it says the call came in, but my phone number rang. And then I could, our support team would then look at it and see, like, are we getting some kind of weird error message? Was it actually trying to offer calls to the user, etc. Feature codes. This is, I've mentioned a couple of these, right? From your VoIP phones, you can enter a star and number key, and you can then make use of these various features. Just so you know, this one right here, the *97, you can definitely do that from a cell phone or landline. You just call into the main number. That goes to virtual reception. So if you hit *97, it's going to ask you for your voicemail box number and then the PIN number for that voicemail box. All right, we'll go over here now. So this was all under the dashboard. All right, under ACD queues. So ACD stands for automatic call distribution. This is a call center feature. As I mentioned before, standard queues are between $15 and $30 per month per queue, depending on your plan. There's also Queues Pro, which start at $99 per month per queue. You would click on Add New Queue, and that will take us to the, you click on the little gear icon here. So this is a standard queue. All right, we've got a name for it here. We've got an extension number, right? I can change that out to a phone number, right? Versus groups, where groups can have both, correct? Then over here, we've got the routing strategy, or configuration, excuse me, queue routing strategy. Unfortunately, the pull down isn't working. Round robin means calls will equalize to the logged in users over time. There's a ring all, meaning everyone gets rung. There is, let's see, most idle, means whoever's been waiting for the call the longest gets the next call that comes in. There is least offered, meaning, let's say I have Bob and Mary are both logged in a queue. Bob's been offered 20 calls. Mary's been offered 5. The next call that comes in under least offered goes to Mary. Now, least calls, in that same scenario, right? So Bob's been offered 20 calls. Mary's been offered 5. Let's say Bob only talked to 2 people. Mary has spoken to all 5 people that she was offered. The next call comes in, goes to Bob, right, until they equalize. All right, hold treatment. You've got, you can upload a music file, again, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono. Now on ACD Queues Pro, the hold treatment is broken out more, right? So and here you only have the option of hold music. On Queues Pro, you can include things like their expected wait time, their position in the queue, right? I.e. how many people are ahead of them, as well as have hold music play. And like you can change the music file, right? So you can say, hey, I'm going to play this music file first, or this script first. Then I'm going to say, hey, here's your expected wait time. Now I can have music file number 2 play. Now I can have their position in line. Now I can have file number 3 play, or I can have number 1 play again, what have you. You have a lot more granular control of hold treatment under Queues Pro. Okay, queue timeout, how much time the person who's calling in can wait on hold, measured in seconds. The queue limit, or queue call limit, excuse me, this is how many calls can be in the queue at one time. When you have 0, that means you have no limit. Then we've got the timeout immediately if empty. So if you have this enabled, if you have no staff members log in, the system treats an inbound caller as if they've hit the queue timeout. Now, escalation queue, basically this will come into place like all the call is offered to all your staff members in this queue, and none of them will be able to answer. They hit you can then roll the call to a second queue. Right now, escalation call for after timeout. So after this 3,600 seconds timer is reached, then you can send callers to say, I can send it to an auto attendant, I can send it to a device, I can send it to the user directory, I can send it to a ring group, I can have a media file play, or I can just say, hey, go to a voicemail box. Agent behavior, agent recovery time. This is usually like between 15 to 30 seconds. Basically, after an agent is done with a queue call, this is how much time they get before they're offered a second call from the queue. Forced away on reject or miss. If this is enabled, if your staff member misses a call, right, or doesn't answer a queue call, the system will automatically put them in away mode, and then that user then has to mark themselves as ready again to get called. And then agent timeout, or agent connect timeout, excuse me. How much time we try to offer a call to a user. Now again, 20 seconds should be plenty because in queues, everyone has to be on a VoIP phone. Now, if I click on the little headset icon here, or person with a headset, this is where I manage members. And if I click on manage members, the list on the left are people not in queues, versus the people on the right, these are all my people, or all my staff members that I can make available into the various queues. If I want to add someone, I can then click on them and then click on add members. And likewise, if I want to remove them, I can click on them and click on remove members. For your staff members, right, they would click on ACD queues themselves. They would click on begin session. And they start off in away mode, right? They can make themselves ready. And then you see here, I'm in this level 2 support queue. I can click on this. I can say, hey, here's my status. I've had 0 calls and 0 missed. That's a little phone icon. I can actually choose which phone I'm going to use, right? So, but again, it has to be a VoIP device for you to actually receive calls on. And then we can go ahead and end the session. All right, blacklists. I just referred to this. This allows you to create a list, right? So I clicked edit settings and then I click on add. I can choose an existing list. I can change the name. Okay, block anonymous means if we don't get valid inbound caller ID, we can just block the call from reaching the system. And I can add specific phone numbers, right? +1 area code and number. I would then click on add to continue adding. And then I click on save. I need to go back to settings. And I need to make sure the list is under the selected column. And then click update. So now any of the phone numbers on these 2 lists that try to call into my system, they get a busy tone, right? They can't connect. All right, faxes. As an admin, you can get to any fax box on the account. You can also view the outbound faxing for anyone. Again, this is a test account, so there's nothing really to see. And then you can also get to the email to fax logs, which can tell you why some faxes weren't going out, like invalid attachment or no attachment in some cases. All right. Monitor is not active on all accounts. I believe that's an account level feature at this time. But what this does allow you to do is to see the status of your users, right? Green means they're waiting for a call. Blue means they're on an inbound call. Red means they're marked away. Yellow means they're on external call, and gold means they're on recovery time from a queue call. The recording manager, this takes you to where your call recordings are stored under AWS. It uses your Dash login to log in. You can then download the files, play them back, etc. Reports is in beta. This is basically an advanced version of the call logs. So you can see like who's getting calls, that sort of thing, how long calls are. It's very customizable. User portal. Everyone has their own user portal. That starts you off on voicemail. Again, I have delete after notification, so there's nothing here. You can see the call history, seeing where people make, where you've made calls or gotten calls from. If you have faxing, you can see your faxing history. The contact list, this is everyone within your Dash account, right? So groups, users, etc. This is not something you can, like I could not add my customer information here, right? I can only add, this is only within the my Dash account. The conference, this is your where your users manage their conferencing. So you can invite other Dash users to a conference. You can lock a conference. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can end the conference. When you're actually in a conference, you can like mute a specific participant. You can also kick a specific participant. I can change my PIN numbers here as a user. And then I have these other settings for like playing tones when people enter or exit. Settings and devices. This is where I would set up my own call forwarding. By myself, I can also see my status. Voicemails. Again, as an admin, you can get to any voicemail backs on the account and basically see their messages. Right, I can play it back. I can delete it. If I click on the little box, then I can say it's new, keep it as new, listened, or delete it. I can change its marked status. I can move it to a different voicemail box. Webhooks basically would allow you to link Dash to other software via APIs. If you are interested in this, you're actually going to want to talk to our sales team. They have some additional documentation as well as basically making sure it's going to be the proper fit for you. And that is everything. Going to go back to the dashboard here. I haven't seen any questions pop up, so I'll wait another minute or so to see if anyone has any questions. If you don't, then I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. But as I said, I'll wait around for another minute or so to see if anyone has questions. All right, not seeing any questions at all, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Again, I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.